Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC Podcast. This episode brought to you by Seitron Americas, creating products that offer advantages and accessibility to all. Learn more at CitronAmericas.com. Well, hello, everyone. We're spending some time today with Jason Estevez. How are you, sir?
Good, very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm actually on the road this week. I'm spending time down at the Daikin Waller facility. We're going to
Nice.
be doing a lot of factory tours, behind the scene video shoot. We've got some director conversations about training and ways that, ESCO and manufacturers are going to be spending more time, dedicated to training and training
Sure.
resources, especially in, this coming year. And so that's one of the reasons we're hanging out with Seitron today. Not just Seitron, Jason Estevez, General Manager, one of the top 25 most influential educators for 2024, as well as the OESP. Tell me about that one as well.
So OESP, I
Yeah.
was, fortunate and honored to be the instructor of the year last year, 2024, as well as, top 25 most influential. So 2024 was a crazy
It's a
year
great
for
year.
actually being, after 20 plus years, really focusing on training myself. It was kind of really touching and very cool to be recognized for, hey, the hours you spend away from home and in
Yeah.
hotels like you, and just going out there and being in front of the customer and doing some train. That's what we do for a living. So I was very honored to do that. And OESP, um, they it started off as Neotium many years ago,
Yep.
very heavily in the oil industry here on the East Coast, and I got into that industry and right out of college and became a member, and went to meetings. I remember doing my first trainings and getting let's put this nicely, my butt chewed out from a lot of guys until you kind of you start learning very quickly
Yeah,
that if you're going to stand up there and teach, you better know what you're talking about. And
you bet.
so that was it was one of the few times outside of my wedding and my kids being born that, like, when it was a surprise. So when I won the award, I actually did cry on my way up. So it
Sure.
was quite touching.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the dedication that we do on this side of the industry. They think, oh boy, it'd be fantastic to be a trainer and get to travel around the country.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, it has its perks, absolutely. But, at the same time, yeah, it's a lot of time away from family, but it's our
Yeah.
passion. It really.
I mean, if I didn't love it, or my team is very good at that too. If we didn't
Yeah.
love what we did, it would be a sad existence. But that's not what being a trainer is incredibly rewarding and fulfilling,
Yeah.
because guys come to your class, they ask questions. Some of our trainers have different personalities, so you kind of, my way is a little bit more blue collar, a little
Mhm.
more open, and the guys just receive that very well, I guess, sometimes. And but yeah, I mean, my wife and I have a joke. We've been together since we were teenagers, so
Oh,
she's known my
congratulations.
thank you. She's known my life since I started in this industry, right? And the heating season is heating season, so she's a teacher. So we have this joke every Labor Day, which is, by the way, our anniversary, and we kiss each
Oh,
other goodbye and we say, "I'll see you at Thanksgiving." So it's
yeah.
kind of how it goes. And I miss a lot of games and events and things like that. But I'm on the road, and it's fun. I love what I do. I love seeing guys learn something new in the class or ask questions, and I love to get stumped too, going, oh wow, this is new. And it's not just teaching the technicians; it's also visiting and training with, like you're doing now, with
Mhm.
manufacturers, and going, what's the new technology? What do techs need to know in the field? What's happening down the pike, whether it's with combustion or refrigerants, or there's so much changing, that if you're teaching a class, you need to know it. So it's, but yeah, there's a, there's very big ups and downs. Being on the road and traveling sounds fun, but gets tiring after a bit, as you can imagine. But on the flip side to that, there's this incredible, the feedback and the feeling of accomplishment you get when guys leave your class, and instead of leaving, they keep coming to the front of the class and asking questions and talking, and what should be a couple hours turns into even longer because you've built a relationship with them. So it's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I just did a podcast recording earlier in the week that will be broadcasted probably very similar time to this one, probably a week or so apart. And, we were talking about education in general and becoming an educator, and how, many times as technicians, we don't think of ourselves as educators.
Mm.
And then once we take that, it's kind of a leap of faith into that new world of education, it opens up an entirely different avenue of reward. I know, for me, I enjoyed fixing broken things. That was what I enjoyed doing, making situations better. That was a fantastic feeling. And then once I got into the classroom and started having that new food, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like that success of those light bulbs going off. It's like this new hunger that I had as an educator, and I absolutely love it. And it's that driving force that has brought you to where you are in your career. When we look at, we were talking about the National HVACR Education Conference. We had 3 esteemed members of your piece of the industry as part of the top 25 this year, showing the amount of investment that is being made in understanding combustion and understanding analysis. And that's really at the heart of what Seitron is. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of Seitron, and then we'll dive deeper into the whole training aspect of things.
Sure. Sure. No, I appreciate that. Myself and my colleague Dan, who we kind of go hand in hand here. We
Hmm.
pretty much run Seitron Americas as a team. We both started off at a company called E Instruments. Many technicians still know us from
Hmm.
E Instruments, and they'll show me, "Hey, you're still on my phone as Jason at E Instruments," and it's just okay. So it is what it is. Um, but I was there for 18 of my 22 years now in the industry, and at a certain point back in 2018, fortunately or unfortunately, things changed, and the company was bought out by a different manufacturer. And my our predecessor and kind of leader there for both Dan and I, on not only a work level as a boss or employer, but almost like a father figure to both of us, because Ray, who was our previous owner and the owner of E Instruments, I mean, I had known him since I was a kid. I was a first employee at E Instruments.
Wow.
Became an HVAC national product manager at 21, and didn't know anything really. So I had to really learn when it comes to education now. And Dan had known Ray as a soccer coach in his youth at one point. So
Oh,
we had
wow.
this real like personal relationship, and he unfortunately passed away very shortly after the company was sold. So,
Mm.
but in all those years, Seitron, this company in Italy, was the actual manufacturer of all of our products. We
Huh.
were kind of just private labeling a lot of the instruments. So at that time, the ownership, and who I'd known for many years because we'd worked together,
Hmm.
approached Dan and I and some of our other service guys, and said, "Hey, we're gonna, the market, the tools, the instruments. We want to open up a subsidiary in North and South America, Seitron Americas, and want you guys to be at the helm." And I said, "Good, as long as you let me put it in the Philly area, because that's where I live. I'm good with
Yeah,
it." So,
exactly.
but it was a great opportunity for Dan and I to kind of kickstart what we've always wanted to do, is kind of run our own show over here. And so we opened up in January of 2021, and have been growing substantially every
Hmm.
year, and goes to a lot of what we'll talk about, not just the product, but the customer service and support, and all that. And in the meantime, while I was making my decision, Sauerman was actually the company that bought E Instruments back
Sure.
in 2018. So I was there as the vice president of sales for about 2 years there. It's just one of those things, right? I mean, company takes over, some things you like, some things you don't. And
Yeah.
this opportunity just came up, and I had a good relationship with the ownership, and it's a family run business. So I just made the decision to leave. But as you mentioned, I mean, I was fortunate enough to hire staff at Sauerman, and some are well known in our industry, and Dan as well, and is under my tutelage and training for years. And it's really cool, even though they're a competitor.
Yeah.
It's very cool to see guys who have trained or had some part in helping along the way stand on the same stage together. So it's very cool and touching. But Seitron as a manufacturer, obviously combustion is kind of our main focus, but we're just getting into new things like refrigeration testing
I've
tools
seen
and
that.
manifolds and things like that, personal gas detection. We're not just in the HVAC market either. We do a lot. Actually, the majority of our business is more on the commercial versus residential side,
Oh, okay.
in the industrial market too. So, you know, we the three things that I always tell my team here, and that I've been, kind of beaten down to, is your customer. I don't care if you sell to distributors, wholesalers, reps, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, your customer is the technician,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
I don't think about anything else in the mix of that line except for them. When they call you, they're not calling you to tell you how awesome your equipment is. They're calling you to help solve an issue. That's what
Yeah.
So when I do a training, when I'm sitting in front of a room full of technicians, I say the best thing for you to become more valuable to your company, to go on your own, to do whatever you want, is be the guy who always gets the test product. It's kind of this funny thing. I go see a service manager and I talk about my analyzer, and he goes, "Let me give it to my best tech," and he uses it, and he'll give me my feedback. Be
Right.
that guy. The more you learn, the more you educate. That's how these guys become trainers, or guys like us, right? You're the guinea pig for a lot of things along the way, but when you become the point of I education to other technicians, to other guys, it really is what makes you valuable.
I think that's a great lesson. Really, when we look at, as technicians, what is the future? What does your career look like? We're going to have technicians listening to this podcast, driving
Sure,
down the road. The reason we keep these 20 or 25 minutes is, that's the average length in between calls. And
sure.
so, as a technician, if you're not that technician at your company, that's the place you want to be. If you are that technician at that company, now we're talking to the person, that's probably next in line to become an educator, right?
Yes.
Even if it's within your own company. We have a lot of contractors that came to our conference this year looking for resources to have their own technical training departments
Yep.
in-house, to be able to
Yes.
specialize in training to do things right. And so part of that is having the resources, having the training available to be the best that you can be, right? You want to get really good with a Seitron product. You want to understand so well that you can teach it to a fifth grader. You'll hear that all the time around here. It's one of Eugene's things.
Yeah.
That's how well you need to know what you're doing. You have to be able to break it down so simple that a grade schooler can understand it, although it's meant for the professional. So, in doing that, it's about having the right training resources. And so, when we talk about Citron, I don't want to just talk about the manufacturer. I want to talk
Mm.
about your brand, because you've already said it. There's so much more than just the product. It's that
Yep.
whole relationship and training. So let's spend a little bit of time talking about
Sure.
what you do in the world of training.
So there are three pillars to our company, right? Product is just one,
Hmm.
and anybody can make a product. It just That's a different set. The other two are the most important. And then, like I said before, your end user, your customer is the technician, right? So customer support and training are the two biggest aspects of what we do. And every salesperson, every team member that I join, I don't hire salespeople. I hire guys who have done training before, because you have to be comfortable enough to stand in front of the class, and you have to be, you have to understand what you're talking about. But
Sure.
education and training is so important, and honestly, it's so much fun. The sales come from the training. If you really, and it's really funny when we go to a class and we stand up there, and this is going to be a combustion analysis training, and the faces that guy you see, and the first thing I say every class is, "Don't worry, guys, it's not a sales presentation. It's a training." In fact, a little thing that I learned early on was, don't hand out literature before class, only a card.
Right. I agree.
Because as soon as you hand out literature, it's, oh, here we go. It's a
Here we
product.
go.
Here we go. So
Check
I
my
don't.
email.
Exactly. So I don't, and our classes are NATE and NORA accredited. So
Mhm.
you can't just, it brings guys in, of course, but you can't just go there and do a sales presentation if you want accreditation. You have to actually teach something. We recently just partnered with NCI and the National Comfort Institute as well.
Great group.
We've known them for a long time, and we've taken a lot of what we teach and train and put it actually in the product part now, right? So it makes it easier for guys, because the easier you can make it, the better, the more chances guys will actually do it correctly. The better things are done correctly, the better our equipment runs. The better our equipment runs, the better our market is. What a domino effect that you can have just by that little instinct of let's train the guys right, and if we do that, it'll kind of domino. But we really focus on that. In fact, to give you an example, Seitron's not the biggest world name when it comes to analyzers. We know who our competitors are, and sometimes I'll sit with big companies who are looking at a lot of analyzers, and I will sit with the service manager and I will tell them, if you do not have us come in and do training for your techs, buy another brand. That's how important it is to us.
Wow.
I just, how to use it, what the readings mean, how to take care of it, how to maintain them, and go through everything, but not just to train them. We want our guys to go in and build a relationship. Everybody gets our cell phone numbers, gets our card, put it in the case. If you have a call, we have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week tech support. We will take any phone call at any time. I've done them myself, Friday nights, Christmas morning. My wife loves that shit. Just loves it. But during, I've gotten a little older, so during the off season, off the heating season, my other guys take it now. But
Right.
But like I said before, I mean, they're calling you for an issue to help.
Yep.
I know the timing sometimes stinks, but if you help and train and teach something, even right there, not at a class, but right there in the field, technicians remember that. And the support that goes behind it, support and training are linked. Even though they're two pillars for us, they're completely linked.
Very
And
similar.
you pick up a phone, it's incredible.
One of the things that you had just mentioned on the literature side, that's such a great thing to think about, like even in a classroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
The importance of holding on to the information and building that relationship.
Yep.
Can we dive into that a little bit deeper? Because that really is a great nugget of information, whether you're on the sales training side, whether you're on training, or
Yeah.
whether you're an educator, that can really benefit any classroom experience.
We're always taught, first impressions go a long way, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately or fortunately in this industry, the first impression is a lot of times, we don't get it as much anymore because it's accredited, but it's still important. And guys just think it's going to be another local sales rep coming in to talk about their product for an hour. And that's really, unfortunately, what it sometimes is and sometimes not. You have to have the right educator. So I travel all over the country, and I'm out with my local sales reps, and my sales reps are doing their job. While I'm setting up the class, they're handing out the catalogs, and I'll tell them, no, don't do that. Take all the literature and you put it at the table at the end where the products are, because I always set up, here's the products if you want to touch. And I start the class going, guys, this is going to be an education thing. This is also going to be interactive, which means I'm going to ask you questions. So I don't stand up here to do this to myself and speak to nobody. And I'm not going to read off the bullet points in the PowerPoint. This is what it's going to be. We're going to have some fun, but this is kind of how it's going to go. And I leave all that literature and all the product, and I start the class going, if you want literature and if you want product stuff, it's there. We'll talk at the end. I have a product. I will talk about it when it's relevant to what we're talking about in combustion. Maybe there's a feature or something that we do that's based on what's happening in the process to make the testing easier. I will not walk around with the product. I will not, hand out that kind of stuff. The only thing I hand out, a pen, a business card, a pad of paper, and sometimes what we call a little quick guide cheat sheet, which has to deal with combustion, which is educational focused. And then we run the class, and then at the end of class, I have a little QR code that guys sign into, and I go, I will send you a booklet, a power copy of the presentation for you to reference, steal from. I don't care. As long as you're using it, that's what it's there for. But if you want product, then right over there at the end of the table, at the end of class, then that's when if they trust you and learn something, they will come up and talk to you about the product. That's why I'm saying, like, in how we at Seitron do it is that way. It's education first, the training first. The sales, you might not get a sale tomorrow, but the next time they go to buy a combustion analyzer or a leak detector or something like that, they go, that guy at class, he gave me a cell phone. Let me call him. Let me ask some questions. And the next time they think about purchasing one, that's when they'll reach out. But you have to, and sometimes in our industry that happens, man. We get so focused on how many guys are we going to get into class and how do we hand out as much literature and talk about the product? And you go, you can do that. It's not going to work if you really want to be an educator and not a sales rep, right? I mean, it's a big difference.
No, I completely believe in that philosophy. I mean, if you think about our own conference, when we have presenters at our conference, we typically have a couple hundred applications for classes. That's the reason we have,
Yeah,
100 classes is, we've already sorted through half of them and have that much content. And that is always our prereq, is that no matter what product that you represent, the importance is the actual education. We want you to represent your brand, absolutely.
of course, of
Hold
course.
that's part of it. Try to hold that if you can towards the end, because if you can teach the concepts, the actual product is like a byproduct of the conversation. Even as technicians, if we think about presenting a solution to a homeowner, I'm a technician, I found a problem. This system is probably going to have to be replaced. Do I go
Yep,
straight to the consumer and go, okay, here's the products that we carry, and by the way, your system is shot. You're going to have to buy one of these. It's not a
that's
successful approach. If we do
no,
the
no.
education up front, okay, here is the problem. This is what happened. This is the most likely solution. And in that, I'm going to present you some options. And here is what I have to offer. It's a completely different process for the same information. It's just the way that we deliver it.
Yes.
It tends to be much better received.
I couldn't agree. Let's take what I do for a living just as an example on the combustion analyzer, right? I tell every technician in class, we actually have a section of the class of how they can use it as their own sales tool,
Hmm.
because it's not just an education on how to use the instruments, what the numbers mean and all that kind of stuff. It's stop thinking of it as just some expensive service tool that you might need when you do a 90 percenter. No, it's actually, like you said, right? If I have an instance where I went to this class, I learned how to check for a cracked heat exchanger on my furnace using my analyzer. I did the test and oh boy, I saw it. Now I'm educating the homeowner. First of all, I'm
Right.
covering myself for liability, but secondly,
Absolutely.
I'm showing them, hey, this is what is happening. And now let me talk to you about it. And I said, guys, do me a favor. The next time you go to use your analyzer, turn it on outside, right? Walk into the home. Typically the first question somebody's going to ask you is, what the hell is that thing?
What's that? I've not seen
Exactly.
one of those here
And
before. No one's brought that before.
and what and I'll say, and then now I'll go, okay, tell them exactly what it is. It's a testing instrument to test not only the air in the room, but why don't you come down with me to your furnace and let's plug this in together and see how efficient the equipment's running and see how safely it's running
Wow.
before I touch anything, before I even do anything. Let's just see what it's doing together. Then, and I go and I'll ask everybody in the class, guys, what did I just do? And everybody goes, you gained credibility.
Yeah.
Welcome to sales. I don't care if you're a technician or not. You just gained credibility that nobody else has done. So when you get to that point, if you do find a problem, or if you get to that point that we all want to sell equipment and you find an issue or something like that, the level of trust that you've began with is higher. But this all comes, and that's just a small portion of what we teach in class, that use this as a different tool, not just a not just the tool, but use the tool for other things. So those little things, that whether everybody has a shirt with the company name on it, you represent the company, and how do you educate yourself to educate? My job is to educate technicians. Technicians' job is to educate homeowners. That's how we get sales. It's, again, another domino effect, whether we like it or not. It is. So there's sometimes guys think of an education, I'm going to go there and combustion's not the most sexiest thing to talk about for a while because it's chemistry, right? It's oxygen and CO and all these things. Yeah, I get that. There's part of that. And I try to make it as fun as we possibly can. But there are other things that we teach on. Like, why is this happening? Why is this going on? When you see these numbers, what does it mean? And how do you use that to better yourself and be better educated and to cover your own behind when it comes to liability? But if you don't know what to look for, that's another problem. So there's a lot in there, but it's kind of how you go about giving the information to them. But another this thing on the cracked heat exchanger, right? The amount of times I teach guys in the class, and I don't care what brand they use, every analyzer pretty much does the same at the end of the day. But when I teach them how to check for it, that's my funnest part of the class when I get to things like that, because I can't wait for the light bulb moment, man. I've been talking for an hour. Here it comes. And you just see guys' faces and you see oh shit, I didn't know that. And I go, yeah, you could do it with yours. And then we start implementing things. So what we do as a company is, we go out, and because you're spending so much time in the field with manufacturers and technicians and teaching, you go, okay, I know this is important. How do we implement this stuff now into the instrument for it to do? So now my guys can just go there, click a button, hit cracked heat exchanger. It comes up and tells you. You're trying to make it even user friendlier for us to use it more, right? So that's kind of it's kind of our philosophy. It all comes from being out in the field, seeing the guys, talking to them, and whether we like it or not, for time immemorial, this industry, I don't care about the amount of technology we have, will and always will be a personal relationship business. It's the brand you trust. It's the people you trust. The sales rep you trust. The distributor you trust. It's all these different types of things, and it's the trainers that you trust. And that's what I try to hit my guys with all the time. Be the trainer they'll trust. The sales will come later.
Man, that's the title of this podcast. Jason Estevez, how do we learn more about the training opportunities at Seitron and how to connect with Seitron?
Sure. So we're easy to find. We don't have an answering service here, so call, ask about any kind of training. You'll get myself, Dan, or Kevin involved. We travel all over. There's 3 of us full time doing this for a living here. We're all over the country, so don't feel like, oh well, I'm in Utah, these guys are in Philadelphia. No, we're everywhere all the time. Dan and I joke around that we'll see each other at holidays in between, so we have a lot of flexibility here. You can go to our website, which is actually CeitronAmericas.com, and you can touch base with us, email us, call us. You'll see the telephone number there, and just call and say, I want some training, or how do I talk to Jason, Dan, or Kevin, and Tara in our office. They'll be happy to put you through.
Awesome. All right. Well, I sure appreciate you hanging out with us today, and I look forward to hopping in one of these classes sometime.
Oh, anytime, and it's a pleasure. We do have some different personalities, so if you like more of a blue collar North Jersey effect, that's me. And then we have some other guys who are a little bit more professional. So it really depends on your personality. But it's still fun. As long as you make it fun and guys are learning, they'll appreciate it. You can't do this for this long if guys don't like it.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, I sure appreciate your time today.
Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.